It's happening.
Can you hear me?
I can. I'm going to play a listener call. And then in post-production, I'll edit in the intro music, and then you and I can start talking about the listener call.
Okay.
All right. Chaz, David Lee. How's it going, guys? It's your buddy Bruce from Austin, Texas. I just want to say I just listened to the last episode of The Grit, and I got to say, it was definitely one of my favorite Barrel or Nahs ever. Because the last Barrel or Nah of last week's episode was the term half-assed. And let me tell you something about the term half-assed. I believe it is essential to do things half-assed. And let me give you an example that you all know. When I wrote that song for you, Chaz, about your book, Blessed Are the Bank Robbers, dude, I wrote that song in about 25 minutes. I called my producer, buddy Hoagie, and I said, Hoag, man, I got this song. You got any time for me? He said, I got about 4 hours. And I was like, all right. Like, screw it. Let's do it. Man, we knocked out that song in 4 hours. We laid down the guitar. We laid down the bass, the drums, everything real fast. And I'm telling you, when you do a professional studio recording, it usually takes about 4 days, not 4 hours. And that song came out pretty good, man. I was happy with it. But it was totally half-assed. Everything about it was half-assed. And I just think, you know, if I didn't do that song half-assed, I would have been nitpicking everything. And I would have been second-guessing all these things. And where I think it relates to surfing is when you're up on a wave, surf the wave half-assed. Just do whatever you feel like doing, man. Don't overthink anything. Because when you do things full-ass, like you all coined, it's just not, it doesn't work. So, anyway, I just want to say, keep the Grit podcast half-assed. Y'all seem to do that anyway. We love it for the rest of eternity while the Grit podcast, while y'all go into your elder years, just keep it half-assed. And I encourage the listeners to say, rather than just keeping up the work, keep up that half-assed work. All right? All right. Cheers, boys.
Ass is the best ass. I mean, let's just all be honest.
Well, it's easier. It's what we actually want to do. But yeah. I agree with him. I agree with him, though. Totally, you're going to overthink it. He would have over-edited. He would have rewritten, and he would have wasted a ton of time, and it would have been a lesser version.
Totally. I mean, I think you have a couple masterpieces in your life. 99% of what you do is not a masterpiece. So just half-ass all of it, except get the smell for that thing that might be a masterpiece and really full-ass that. But otherwise, half-ass.
See, I would argue that the masterpieces are half-assed. Like those are the ones that come out of pure inspiration and they just happen, like Blessed Are the Bank Robbers, the song.
That's so true. That is so true that it's all half-assed. So don't lean into anything. Just
agreed.
Sort of semi-shove. When it gets hard, give up.
Are the articles on Beach Grit half-assed?
Every last one of them.
Dude, there was 24 articles since our last podcast.
Wow, man, I've been keeping up a clip.
That might be the most productive week ever.
Yeah, I've been trying to do, no, it's not. When I'm really on my A game, then I'm 3 a day, which, what is that? That is 21.
21, yeah.
For me alone. And then with another 2 a day, probably from Derek. So our maximum output, and then probably another from somebody else, our maximum output is probably like, what's 14 plus 21? 28, 38. There's like 40 is probably our maximum output.
Nope, all that math was incorrect. You half-assed math too. That's the other thing. Well, how's it going? I never see you drinking a beverage.
I know. This is the first time.
Not even, never water, never coffee. Apparently you drink Athletic Greens, but I haven't seen it.
I do. I drink Athletic. I just finished my Athletic Greens and was running a little late this morning, so I had to bring my coffee to the studio.
Nice.
I was out late last night. I guess it wasn't even that late, but out at a show last night. When was the last time you were at a show?
Depends. Is it comedy? Is it music?
A music show.
Never. It's been probably pre-COVID.
I went to the strangest show. It wasn't strangest, I suppose, but a genre of music that I was unaware.
What is it?
Well, went to see Trouble Andrew play. Have you heard of Trouble Andrew?
I have.
Gucci Ghost? Yeah. So that guy is a prolific artist. I just thought he was a visual artist. But so apparently he has a band too. So went to see Trouble Andrew play, which was great. And he was the opener, the mid act for a band called Prayers, which I'll be curious if any of our listeners know Prayers. I mean, I didn't know what Prayers was going to be, based on the crowd. Like Trouble Andrew kind of plays I don't know, Depeche Mode kind of new wave, but like with a little darker undertone to it. So, just music. From the crowd, I thought that Prayers might be like Suicidal Tendencies or something like that. But nope, it's from what I could tell, like satanic Mexican rap.
Wow. I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't either. There was like two dudes, big muscly dudes, shirtless on stage, holding like scimitars at both ends of the stage. And then Prayer, whoever the artist is, just rapping in between them with like pentagrams and stuff being flashed behind him.
Was it good?
No, not to my taste, but the crowd seemed enthusiastic.
I mean, the band's name is a little misleading, I guess, unless they're praying to Satan.
Yeah, could be. I don't know how satanic it was. It just had it had like a satanic vibe circa, I don't know, when satanic music was a thing.
I know Satanic Panic was a thing in the 80s, like a media thing, so maybe that was related. The thing I don't understand about Satanists is I don't think they're actually worshiping Satan, right?
No,
they're just kind of
anti.
I guess I need to look into it. Are they just anti-God?
Have you? Well, I mean, I think there's different. Have you ever read the Satanic Bible?
No.
By Anton LaVey? I've read the Satanic Bible. The Satanic Bible is basically just a worship yourself thing. It's like you are God, you do you, please yourself in every way. Like was fairly silly. It was just like rewrote the Beatitudes and stuff, except just did it opposite. It was like, blessed are the warmongers, or blessed are those who get what they want, or whatever. Silly stuff. And then I think though there is like occult Satanism, where then I think then you maybe worship Satan.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know where, but documentary I was watching at some point or something was like Satanists or modern Satanists get angry at being labeled as worshiping Satan because that's not what they do, because the people who are worshiping Satan are sacrificing children or animals in order to please the Dark Lord, whereas just a modern Satanist is more what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's all just about the self. It is like the worship of the ego.
There's a documentary series on HBO right now called The Anarchists. Are you watching this?
No, but real quick, before I forget, guess what I just watched?
What?
Val. It's epic.
Oh, it's so good, right?
It is so good. Watch the entire thing. It is an epic. I don't know why it took me so long, but apparently I just half-assed my way into it, but it is epic.
What did you like about it, or what were your thoughts on it?
I just really liked he made a real masterpiece. He half-assed a masterpiece once he lost his voice. Just the structure of it, like it wasn't just a documentary, right? His story of telling stories, or of acting, his story of this art, and the way he approached it, and what it meant to him, and what it did to his life, and all of it was epic. And just then the amount of footage he had, like the fact that he had filmed everything from the minute camcorders came out. So kind of seeing behind the scenes at Top Gun and at Tombstone and at all these movies that you kind of, whatever, like just that, the way, I don't know, it made kind of, people talk about acting like a craft, right? And it was for the first time you kind of see how it is a craft for me.
Well, I liked it as well, and I liked it for a lot of those reasons. I liked that it was a real peek into his psyche, because he shot a lot of that footage, and it kind of documented not only his life, but the way that he thinks.
Yep.
But I don't know if you remember what I said about it at the time when I first watched it. That was the most revealing to me, and something that I hadn't considered about him before, is he views himself as a artist and like this high level actor. He's in the same class as the greats.
Yep.
But he's not that good of an actor. And I think that all of Hollywood, or important people that he wanted to work with in Hollywood, identified that he wasn't a great actor. And he was always upset that he wasn't getting the call from Kubrick or Scorsese. But when you look at, you and I love him because of Tombstone, but when you look at his roles, Tombstone, Jim Morrison in The Doors, those are caricatures.
Yeah.
He's so overacting in those roles that it becomes memorable, and he did great at that thing. But, you know, Marlon Brando or Meryl Streep or whoever, it's all about subtlety and nuance. And so Scorsese never wanted to work with him because he knew that Val was a caricature. And I think that Val never identified that and still doesn't. He still thinks he's one of the greats who just never got the role that he deserved. But watching the documentary, it became apparent to me that he's identified his own kind of, he's typecast himself in Hollywood as this guy who just plays these outlandish characters and thinks that he's great enough to do something better, but he's not.
I mean, the like him going to Juilliard, I thought was interesting, right? But like anytime you watch a stage production, I mean, how often do you go to theater and watch like any kind of stage production?
I'm not into it.
Yeah, like I go rarely, but you have to overact, right? Like you're supposed to reach the person at the back of the room, and you can't, like, subtle acting on stage doesn't translate. You have to be this big, da, da, da. So that's what it feels like to me, is he brought Juilliard to the screen where everything is thespianism. And that's what he is. And he could never stop doing that. But his Mark Twain show, whatever, looked epic.
I agree. That looked like his great life's work.
Yeah. But then also, not to keep going on about Val, but the him sharing like the depression of having to sign autographs now to make a living, like that he was an like iconic actor in some of the most iconic movies of the 80s and 90s and 2000s, I suppose, and now he's at Comic-Con signing Batman posters.
Crazy town.
Yeah.
Well, that takes us.
But anyway, The Anarchist. I saw the preview, and I'm going to watch that too.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I just started it last night, but talking about how Satanists are misunderstood, this movement of anarchists who end up all kind of gravitating down to Acapulco, Mexico.
Yeah.
They're taking the Greek definition of anarchy, which is without law, essentially, but they're not trying to overthrow government. They're not trying to like burn down buildings or anything like that. They just prefer to live without law. But things quickly go awry in their ideal society as well. It's really interesting.
The preview really sold that thing well.
Yeah. So speaking of documentary, this is kind of tangential, but I thought of it because of an article that Derek wrote on Beach Grit. The article where Kelly Slater, that girl, was on a podcast recently and talks about sleeping with Kelly Slater.
Yeah.
I'll tell that story too, but I was interviewing, do you know who Greg McGillivray is?
Yeah.
Classic.
No, Matthew McGillivray.
No, Greg McGillivray is from Laguna Beach. He made 5 Summer Stories 50 years ago.
Okay.
So he's a surf filmmaker from Laguna, born in the 40s, but then went on to work in Hollywood for the last 40 years or 30 years. And he filmed, he worked on The Shining. He's done tons of IMAX stuff. He's been nominated for Academy Awards, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I was interviewing him for Surf Splendor, and he was just, Dick Metz is this way too, where he recalls dates and names with this astounding, I presume, accuracy. I'll be like asking him a story from the 60s, and he's like, oh yeah, my friend, blah, blah, blah. And he names the guy's name. And that was June 27th of 1972. And you're just like, what? How is it? Is it just that old guys are smarter than we are?
They probably are. They probably didn't. I mean, they didn't fry their brains with iPhones and stuff. Their brains actually
That's
have
gotta
to work.
be it.
We just stick every like thing that we need in our dumb phone and then half-ass the rest of it. Our brains are just like wandering, traipsing through the lilies, doing absolutely nothing with zero recall.
That's gotta be it. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, are drugs more pervasive in our culture? Maybe, and maybe that's addled everybody's brains, or alcohol or something, but I think it's more what you're talking about.
Imagine that dude probably had a Rolodex, right? Where he would have to,
Yes.
So not only are you like remembering things, you're writing them down and then you're reading them back. Like you're doing all the things that you're supposed to do for a memory.
Full ass. He's going full ass.
Yeah. Whole ass on all of it.
I'm jealous of him. Like part of me is, I think he's name dropping, except I don't know any of the names. You know what I mean? Like if he says Flippy Hoffman, I'm like, oh, I got that one. I know who that is. But then he names 5 other pro surfers from that era, or important people from that era. And I'm just like, it's not even name dropping. It's like no name dropping, So then the reason why that reminded me of Kelly Slater was that girl's story. So the unnamed middle-aged woman on a podcast was saying that Kelly Slater got her number in a bar near Bell's 20 years ago, or like in the mid 90s. And he committed it to memory. He heard her number, remembered it. What the detail here in the story is, she was saying her number to somebody else. He overheard it, remembered her phone number, and then later that night texted her. Yeah. And I was like, first of all, we could talk about the creepy part of hearing somebody's number, but the fact that he could even remember her number blows my mind. I don't know Lauren's number. I don't know your number, like.
I bet Kelly is one of those people, aside from social media, who's not on his phone very much.
Except that he's on social media all the time. So that would indicate he's on his phone all the time.
That is true. Because you don't just go on to your phone and do social media and then put it down.
No, but he came from the era before phones, and so his brain is kind of fortified.
Still works. Yeah, his brain still works. I mean, getting Kelly in the booth too, it's the same kind of old man thing where his recall of at least his own heat and waves and events, and it's fairly endless. On 1996, when I surfed the blah blah in Chiba, Japan, blah blah blah.
It's so true, and he's surfed so many heats that you would think it would all just blend together, but it's not his, because he'll recall heats from his youth, from childhood, NSSA competitions or ESA competitions, and he knows the exact heat score, who beat him, what the waves are doing that day. It's really remarkable. I really want to get a Rolodex and start training.
Would you, though, let's be honest, would you rather have your mind just the vast emptiness that it is, or chock full of heats in crappy beach break against Shane Beshan? Like, I'll take an empty brain over cataloged like 30 years of like, imagine how many good events Kelly Slater has surfed in his whole career. There's probably what would you say? Like good waves, pumping waves, surfing well.
100, 200 easily.
No.
Yeah.
I bet Kelly has surfed 20 good events. Imagine from a
dude, I could name 20 off the top of my head. I can name 20 pipe masters that he surfed good waves in. He's been on tour 30 years.
I know, but imagine what percentage of that was like Huntington, and like he's like the Dream Tour. When did the Dream Tour start?
In the mid to late 90s.
Yeah, 97, I want to say.
Okay.
90 something. So he had what? I'm going to say 20 years of Dream. Oh, that's kind of a lot. 20 years. Well,
let's say he surfed 30 years. There's 10 events on tour, give or take. So that's 200 events. So how many of those events were good? 30%.
You think 30%? Well, let's look at this year. I suppose we have J-Bay was good, and Pipeline was good. That was it, right?
Yeah.
So 2 out of how many events have we had?
Yeah, I don't know. We're half-assing this as well. Well, whatever the case, his ability for recall, what would I take? His ability for recall or my vast nothingness?
I'm saying though, but his ability for recall though, it has to be that specifically. Like your brain is full of
Right.
completely useless garbage.
Okay, so I kind of think he's a smarter, well, he is a smarter person. I think he's a better person in a lot of ways. I think I've elected to not remember those things because I'm always kind of rushing ahead and I think they're unimportant. But I don't know. I think he might be better than me. I think he's savvier than me.
What if you could recall, like pinpoint every single podcast you've done? The guest, what the guest talked about.
That'd be amazing.
How long the podcast went, like
I don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
we gotta text. No, I don't think I'd be happier or sadder. I would just be, you know what it is. There's that thin line between genius and insanity.
Yeah.
If you actually remember all of it, you're on the brink of insanity.
Yeah.
Like your brain, you're not supposed to actually remember all that information.
You and I just have eternal sunshine right now.
Exactly. We get I don't know. I feel like we both got the text message. Maybe it was just me from Kevin Miller, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Florida Surf Film Festival's Kevin Miller. And he was referencing something that you and I had discussed in the podcast the day prior. Yeah. So we published it. The next day he listens to it. And you and I had some quandary on air, and he was giving us the answer to the quandary.
It was about Gattaca.
Right, Gattaca, the film. And so he gave us the answer. I had no idea what he was talking about. I just thought he was like recommending a film. And I'm like, yeah, I like that film too. It's a good film. And then he replied back, was like, oh, in case it wasn't obvious, I was answering what you guys were talking about on air. I'm like, no, it wasn't. Even though that was 24 hours ago, it was not obvious because it goes out of my mouth into the ether and gone forever. Like, I don't remember anything.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, when he wrote Gattaca too, I was like, cool. Like, are you in a hotel watching Gattaca, or did you watch Gattaca on an airplane? Like, yeah, I like that. Good movie.
I mean, I did think like, oh, we were talking about movies, so maybe he just chimed in with a movie that he recommends. I don't know. But literally, if I'm filling freaking 4 hours a week of podcast time, like, I'm not going to remember any of it, you know?
Oh, man.
Anyways, Greg McGillivray, better human than me, better kind of, smarter brain, better brain than me, and I think Kelly Slater as well. But real quickly, that story, because it is worth recapping real quick. This girl said, well, Derek wrote, an Australian woman of roughly middle age called in and described meeting Kelly at a bar restaurant near Bell's 20 years ago, and he memorized her telephone number after hearing her tell it to somebody else, leading to a long-term and mostly platonic friendship. So she goes on to say that in the middle of the day, like they were texting back and forth for a while. She didn't want to hook up with him for whatever reason, but her friends encouraged her to hook up with him because they were like, look, maybe you guys don't get married, whatever. When you're old, you're going to want the story of the time that you hooked up with Kelly Slater. This guy is an important human being, you know? So she says, middle of the day on a Saturday, we finally did it. Afterwards, we were both in the shower, and all I could think of was, whoa, I have to call my best friend. I literally just got out of the shower, wasn't even dressed, and I messaged these exact words to my friend. Did it, had sex, going to leave now. Except I mistakenly sent the message to Slater, not my friend. So Slater had the message on his phone.
The funny part, or interesting part, I thought about this whole story was Kelly's reaction of being sad, and their friendship fizzled after that, right? Where it made me think, in this scenario, you would typically think of Kelly as the user, right? Like he's the guy with power who is using his status and whatever just to go chew through women, right? Which is probably typically the case where, the person with status is just chewing through people. In this case, though, it seemed like Kelly became sad when he thought or realized it's just another one, man. Another girl just using me for my fame. She doesn't really like me. She doesn't care to get to know me better. Like that is the sense that I had from the story of Kelly receiving, because yeah, again, the text went to Kelly, and typically you'd think, okay, great, right? Like, who cares? Like, it's not like she was dishing gossip on Kelly's private parts or anything, right?
Exactly.
It was a simple statement, but it seemed like it hurt Kelly's feelings.
This makes me like Kelly more.
Yeah, it seems like Kelly was just like, man, you don't know how many girls just, I think I'm falling in love, and come to find out they're just with me because I'm Kelly Slater, not because of me, but because of my name.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, so I think society has had it wrong actually for a long time. The way that you set up that story where he's using her, chewing through women, that you're right, that is the stereotype. And it's embedded in that is also that women want love, a long-term loving relationship out of this exchange. And so if you give them anything else, they are going to feel short-sighted. I don't know if women are changing or if society had it wrong all along, but nowadays I see women being more, crass about sex, more desiring of just like, God, look at that guy's abs. I would love to bang him and stuff like that. And it's not just on reality TV or whatever. It's conversations with women in my peer group who are, very hypersexualized and not associating it with looking for having children with this person.
Do you, of people men and women, do you have more heartbroken women friends or heartbroken male friends?
I'd say it's 50-50.
Yeah. New times.
It's interesting. It is a modern, maybe it is a reflection of modern times, but even when you look back at like the 50s with the repressed housewives or whatever, it was repressed. They had those exact same desires. It was just society wasn't allowing them to live them out. And then ultimately, affairs run rampant and stuff like that. But
I'd be curious.
It's interesting.
I'd be curious amongst our callers, future callers, listeners, how many have how many men have gone on Tinder or whatever dating apps, thought they had found somebody only to found a woman only to realize they were being used for sex.
I honestly, it's a larger percentage than you would think.
I mean, I would really like the dude just sitting, man, I thought she loved me. She was just using me.
Right. Yep. It happens.
Good stuff.
Speaking of listeners or callers, you want to hear another listener line call?
Sure do.
This comes in reference to something you spoke about last week.
Hey, Dave. Hey, man, calling with a question, listening to the grit from, I believe, the 14th of July. You guys were just talking about that grommet that got pounded on in the lineup, and then Chaz commented about when you see something happening that's injustice, you need to step in and react. So I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of this stuff on social media with the folks that are charging into the cosmetic stores and even CVS and just cleaning the shelf, throwing it all in a bag and heading out the front door. What do you do in that situation? You get involved, you sit back, let it happen, you risk your life over $180 worth of stupid merchandise. Let me know. Because the way Charles is talking, it sounds like he's going to jump right in and throw down. So, just curious. Keep up the work, guys.
So, in Southern California specifically, maybe elsewhere, there's been this, spate, if that's the right word, of smash and grab type robberies. And I think Beach Grit, you guys even wrote about one that happened in Manhattan Beach a couple of weeks ago, because Dennis Jarvis of Spider Surfboards had posted it on his Instagram, where a bunch of people smashed a jewelry store, which at least they're getting away with expensive items, I guess. What this caller is referencing is this also has been happening at Sephora, which is like a beauty product store. So they're stealing cheap items that even when you resell them, I mean, you're not going to be getting a lot of money. So what are your thoughts on this? You see this happening. What do you stand by and film it? Do you get involved?
I think it's a real case by case. Like, corporations are not people. So especially like a CVS or a Sephora or whatever, I don't care necessarily what's happening to their, to the business that day. But I think you get, if an employee or something is getting hurt or,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I think my do something thing is based solely on, people. But then also if it's like a small convenience store or something, and there's some old lady working and some, buddy's trying to stick her up. I mean, if you have the means, or if you can, I'm not saying, get killed, but come on, like, try to be a hero every now and then.
I agree. And it also depends, is the robber, do they have a gun?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of, if I was in a Sephora and somebody was going in and cleaning the shelves and there was nobody in danger. I mean, but if you can, like, if you can trip them or something, why not?
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes
I wouldn't fly across the store and, try, but if you're around, do something.
The most troubling thing whenever I see these news stories is just the erosion of civilization. That's the way I feel about all this. And it seems every week there, if not every day, there's a news story. Because I saw yesterday, Knott's Berry Farm, apparently there's been a bunch of fights breaking out. So Knott's Berry Farm is an amusement park near, it's somewhat near Disneyland for those who aren't around here. And because of the fights that have been breaking out this summer, they're implementing a new policy where people under 17 have to have a chaperone that's over 21. So you can't go into the park if you're under 17 without a chaperone, and that chaperone is only allowed to have as many as 3 people. If you have a 4th person in your group, then you need another chaperone to come in. There was also a series of robberies at 7-Eleven last week where they robbed 4 in one go and shot all 4 of the cashiers, killed 2 of them. Starbucks came out last week and said that they're going to be closing a number of their stores, not because business is bad, but because they can't protect their employees. Things have gotten so bad in that given neighborhood that they can't afford to, hire security or whatever. And they're going to get sued by their employees. If their employees get shot, whatever the case is, they're just going to close their business. And I'm just looking at it going, God, we either need to get out of Southern California or we need to expect more of our citizens, because I want to have nice things. I want to have Starbucks. I want to have a Sephora in our neighborhood, and it's not worth it anymore.
Sure. I mean, and I suppose that's directly to the point of doing something. Like, when society just stands back, then, I think the lowest common denominator will occur. Like, if people step up, then that stuff will stop. Like, if there's I can run in, if you have like bad instincts already, and I can run into a Sephora, clean it out, and nobody's going to do nothing. Why wouldn't you?
Because we're civilized human beings.
Sure, but I'm saying, like, the more people see that happen, nothing happens. It's all fine and good. I'm going to try it, right? Where if there were stories about the people who were trying to rob Sephora getting bonked on the head by purses and knocking out and stuff, then I would imagine, like, Sephora robberies would go down.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. Do something, because the only thing worse than having that mentality that, oh, I can get away with it, so I'm going to do it. The only thing worse than that is seeing that happening in your backyard and not doing anything about it.
Especially
and so
when you knew you could have done something, like,
right.
Knowing you could have done something and not doing it.
And well, that something might be physically harming that person, if that's the right call for the moment, but it might also be filming that person to give that evidence to the police or get their license plate number, whatever it happens to be. So you're right that each case calls for a separate solution, but not doing anything is not contributing. It's actually contributing to the harm, the erosion of civilization.
I mean, pulling somebody out of the way of, if somebody's going in all berserk, like, I mean, or checking and making sure that the women's and children's are accounted for, like, whatever, doing something in every case is the right call.
Agreed. Moving on, the big story of the week also came with the best headline of the week on Beach Grit. Quote, watch as Kai Lenny, Robin to Mark Zuckerberg's Batman, gets monster barrel of his young life at the world's fastest right. So obviously Maalaea turned on in a way that it hasn't for 20 plus years. But I just loved calling Kai Lenny Robin to Mark Zuckerberg's Batman. It's so good.
But isn't it? I mean, it's completely true. Like Zuckerberg's the rich one. Zuckerberg could like build his bat suit and his bat car and whatever he wants to do. And Kai Lenny, because wasn't Robin, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Robin like an acrobat or something in the original comics before he became Robin? I think he was something. He was like a circus performer or something, which is Kai Lenny.
I don't know Robin's backstory, but that makes sense.
Yeah, but man, that footage of Maalaea was Maalaea. How are you supposed to pronounce it? We'll just call it freight trains.
Maalaea.
Maalaea. Have you surfed there?
No.
I have.
No way.
I did. It was a
Was it
tiny
good?
day. No, it was like, I mean, it was fun. It was probably like small, like waist to shoulder.
Was it makeable?
The first little section was, but then no, it would run off without me. But there was some other dude out there surfing with me, local kind, and he was cool. He like told me where to post up and like sort of gave me some pointers.
How old were you?
24.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've driven past it to go surf good waves,
Yeah.
And it was breaking, but it just breaks so fast that it was like, it's nothing out there is makeable. It's not even worth paddling out.
No, I purely surfed it to surf the world's fastest right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my question in regards to this news story is, when did you turn the corner wherein you stopped fantasizing about surfing certain spots one day? Because when I was young, I'd see Maalaea and I'd be like, dude, one day I'm going to get there and I'm going to surf it. But then I watched the footage this week and I go, if I was in Maui and it was doing that, I'd go surf down the beach elsewhere. I would not paddle out there. But when I was young, it was always a goal. Anything that I saw, other than maybe Chopu, anything that I saw, I was like, I'm going to get there one day.
I mean, I think part of it is maybe getting older, but part of it is also like an accurate assessment of ability. Like I think when you're young, like watching what I stared at most, I suppose, of each one of those clips was how quick they had to be on their feet in the right position in order not just to get pitched over the falls and drilled, right? Like, I mean, that like obviously it's a fast wave, but they had to be up and pointed right so quickly that my best pop-up would still be 50% too slow.
Yeah. Well, with even like pipeline backdoor, getting in from the backdoor angle, even if the peak is pitching, backdooring it allows you an entry point. Maalaea is just running. It's a freight train running. And so you're taking off along the line at some point. And that's the hardest possible thing to do because it's pitching.
I mean, that session out there, though, was sure fun. I mean, talk about separating women from girls, men from boys, whatever you want to say.
Batman from Robin.
Those guys, like, I mean, who was out there? The real standouts were like Tom Dosland. Who else was out there? I mean, all the Maui.
Billy Kemper, Ian Walsh,
the full Maui.
Kai Lenny, obviously, Tori Meister.
Yeah, it was something to watch.
Eli Hanneman was out.
There was no in the clips I saw. I didn't see any Oahu boys or Kauai boys out there. Did they get kept off the island, or were they too busy surfing their own giant south-facing shores?
I'm sure they had their own spots that they were surfing. I mean, I think everywhere was lit up, not just Maui, but Billy Kemper was in Chopu a couple days prior, catching it there. Obviously, California's been going off. So only the locals who have like salivated over that spot for decades, this is the moment to catch it. But what's crazy to me is how many kooks are out there too.
Yeah.
Like there's no decorum anymore. I
Did you
knowing
see
that
footage of like kooks dropping in and stuff?
no, but just that one clip of Billy running perfectly positioning on an epic wave and then running into the bodyboard
Oh yeah,
that just stops him dead in his tracks. And then just beyond that, you see a wave storm going through as well with a guy, you know, a riderless wave storm because he ducked under. And it's like, who would even paddle a wave storm out there?
Yeah. I mean, wasn't that JOB and was it? No, that was
No,
something else. Where
I
that was
mean,
a Kai. Did you see that clip?
no.
Who else is on Team Catch Surf? It's Kalani
Yeah.
Rob, right?
Yeah.
So Job and Kalani Rob, I think, paddled like goofy stuff out to somewhere. I can't remember where during that swell and got in the way with their goofy stuff.
Okay. Well, I presumed it wasn't them. I presumed it was kooks because I figured if it was them, then you would see clips of JOB getting shacked out there. But I mean, literally, there's one person in the world who could surf Maalaea on a wave storm, and that is JOB.
Yeah.
Anybody else, get the hell out. What are you doing? Like, you're only going to create havoc. You are not, and that board honestly can't manage in those conditions. So what are you even doing?
I mean, there's no way that it was a like mainland howley, right? Who thought?
It very well could be. Mainland howlies are paddling out at pipe nowadays, you know?
I mean, that's insane to me.
It's insane.
Like, yeah. Is it because there's no pounding anymore?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge part of it.
I mean, imagine being so, because you paddle out there, you have to be utterly clueless. You're either utterly clueless or you're so cocky. And so cocky is fine, right? Like if you think you can handle it and if you're that self-assured, have at it. But if you were utterly clueless, if you have no idea that this place, you shouldn't surf this place, that's a problem.
Well, I think that it's a blend of both. It's people are so clueless that they think that they're qualified. That clip that came out from the winter where the lifeguard is ridiculing the two overweight kooks, pasty white kooks who were trying to paddle out at pipeline. And the lifeguard is really dressing them down and is like, you guys get the hell out of here. You're not qualified, you know? And the guys are like confused. How dare you talk to me that way? I paid to come on this vacation. I'm entitled to paddle out, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you guys are delusional. You are going to get hurt. You're going to hurt somebody else. And then I, as the lifeguard, have to risk my life to go save all of you now.
Public service announcement. Don't surf where you don't belong.
Dude, and don't paddle out on a wave storm. Jesus Christ. I mean
that thing would buckle, right? As fast as
for sure.
I mean, there's no way you could keep a wave. I mean, the times I've surfed wave storms, they're like slow and dumb and they feel super slow. Like it feels like there's no way you can make that thing go fast.
Well, and that wave that broke on the wave storm for sure collapsed that thing, buckled it, broke it in half.
Jerry Lopez board would have worked out there.
Maybe, yeah. Well, if it was a left. So in terms of waves that I see nowadays that I've just given up hope that I'll ever surf it good. Neos when it's firing. When it's smaller, like the event that they ran there recently, that was totally surfable, totally good. But when it's firing, I'm like, dude, I used to dream of that wave. I've never made it there. And now the time has passed. When it's pumping, I'm just not making that drop, you know?
I was watching in the JOB movie, the Neos footage scared me as much as anything. Just sitting there over editor's shoulder, picking the clips was like terrifying.
Totally. Recent Can Dewey footage. Yeah. I'm out.
Big P pass.
I feel like that's the roll in that I could talk myself into.
Okay. Big P pass. Okay.
I mean, not when it's at its biggest, but if it's like 8 feet and I can catch one of those roll-ins and pull in, I'll still go for that. I'm not going to necessarily make it, but I'll at least try.
Okay. P pass. It's nice to have like a standard that a notable wave that you still paddle.
I mean, J-Bay I'm in, G-Land I'm in, Cloud Break even I'm in at this point. Revisit this conversation in a couple years, maybe I'm out. But right now it's still on my hit list.
Yeah.
So going through other news stories, Beach Grit articles, some gender battles going down this week. Quote, sexist bomb explodes over ESPYs as ESPN, which once famously nominated Bethany Hamilton for Best Female Athlete with Disability, only to have her throw back in the sporting giant's face, forgets to invite women to award show. What's this story?
Big story. Yeah, ESPN apparently nominated. Of course, the ESPYs were last night. And a bunch of the nominated women were not invited to the show. So we're
But the men nominated for a like category were invited?
I think more women were like not invited. There was more like women's categories not invited than men's.
Why?
I don't know. It seems like a real gaffe. Like I think ESPN blamed COVID protocols and but you'd think that in this day and age you wouldn't like put your foot in it like that.
Why wouldn't you just invite anybody who's nominated for anything?
Yeah, I mean, and or if you can't, if your venue's not big enough to hold all the nominees, then get a bigger venue. They're doing it in Los Angeles. You're not like stuck to one place. Like it seems silly, and or just say, only the major categories, nominated categories, get to attend. Like the rest of them, we're gonna do it like the Academy Awards, where we have another. But even the Academy Awards, they get like a little sideshow to get their best set, whatever, the stuff that they don't put on the main broadcast. They still get a little show.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's funny.
But the Bethany story, I forgot about that. That was the funniest part of that. That was in 2016.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I was just going to say that. I completely forgot about that story too. Was she offended at the time?
Yes, she was.
Yeah,
she was like, she played it off, whatever, like graciously. But yes, she was like, I don't see myself as a person with a disability. And how dare you tag me as, give me best female athlete. I'm not the best female with a disability.
Right. That is funny. Another news story, or quote news story, quote, in powerful spirit of inclusion and norm challenging, notoriously caustic surf journalist transitions into biathlete.
I did. I went surfing and running on the same day. That is 2 sports.
It is incredible. You should go for the trifecta this week.
I mean, I'm thinking about it. I was thinking about riding my bike somewhere and being a full-on Ironman.
You can get a whole another series of articles out of it if you do.
I know. I'm definitely going to. Yeah, the swell was fun. Did you surf?
I surfed before the swell and after the swell.
Okay.
But not the actual swell.
The swell. I didn't even know really that it was the swell, that it was code red too. So I just went surfing and then thought, oh, this is bigger than normal. And then went surfing the next day and thought, oh, this is a lot bigger than normal. And then realized that I, like Kai Lenny and all the rest, was surfing the code red swell.
Code Red 2.0.
Yep.
Don't you think they could have branded it a little bit more
uniquely? Surfline? Is it Surfline who brands these things?
Sometimes, but I don't know who's responsible for this one.
I mean, Code Red 2 or 2.0 is absolutely idiotic.
So idiotic.
Calling it Code Red is idiotic anyway. Like, I think we should all know from the get-go that naming swell events is idiotic. And like, that's the baseline, is idiotic. So name them like funny, enjoyable, idiotic things. Like, whatever. Have a little alliteration or something in there. Like Monster Madness or something. Give me something other than Code Red.
Well, I like when it was just associated with the name of the hurricane.
Yeah.
Like Hurricane Marie or Maria swell. I remember that one specifically, and we knew where we were, we knew where we surfed, all that kind of stuff. I remember the imagery associated with that. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, I guess that's totally true. Naming things randomly, but if you're going to name it randomly, do something funny. Don't lean on the other dumb name from last time, Code Red.
You know who's got this all figured out is news media outlets naming serial killers.
Oh yeah, they're really good at it. See,
They're
surf
really
line
good
should
at it.
surf line should lean on those people. It is. I mean, think of the Friday Night Killer, all the Zodiac
The
Killer.
Night Stalker.
I mean, everyone. It's so true. Everyone, and the serial killer's not naming himself. I don't think, by and large, right? Like Zodiac
No.
Killer wasn't signing the Zodiac Killer. He was just using Zodiac symbols, so he's a Zodiac Killer.
I think different news publications start writing about it, and they each have their own name. And then one of them just becomes prevailing because it's that much better than the other ones. So there was probably, the San Francisco Chronicle was probably calling him like the symbologist.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And like people are like, it's kind of hard to say. I forget how to spell it. And then somebody wrote Zodiac Killer, and they're like, oh my God, that's great.
I like the ones that serial killers whose name is so serial killery by itself that they don't need a name, like John Wayne Gacy. Or is it
Totally.
Grace? Or it's John Wayne Gacy, yeah?
Gacy.
Yeah, that's like just a straight up serial killer name right in and of itself. You can't name him anything else. He's John Wayne Gacy.
There's some theory that they always include the middle name when they become a serial killer. So they have 3 names.
Why?
I have no idea.
Like Code Red 2.0? Their middle name is the red part.
I don't think it's entirely true, because Ted Bundy, they don't include his middle name. But when you learn about them, there are a ton where they start including their middle names.
That is really, yeah. Well, Surfline or whoever, I guess Beach Grit. Beach Grit needs to start going to there and start naming these swells early. Thing is,
This is an opportunity.
It is such an opportunity to name the swells serial killer style.
Yeah, very smart. This would be good.
Yep.
Speaking of business opportunities, you guys had a hugely successful article last week because you included the word punch. You were saying that Laird punched Kelly. Well, guess what article dropped this week? Ultra famous DJ Diplo punches world's greatest surfer Kelly Slater in the mouth by turning 11-time world champion signature spring suit into must-have fashion accessory of the year.
Oh,
How did this article do as well for you as the previous punch article?
Nope. I was wondering if the loophole had closed. Like, usually I don't try to double down because I feel that the algorithm punishes you for that.
Yep.
But I thought maybe that story ran so hot. Maybe it's still open. Maybe the portal's still open, but it was not. It had closed. But also, yeah, Diplo, I think, is not the celebrity that Laird is. There was a couple things, but yeah, shut down on that one.
That's weird because I read a headline saying that he's ultra famous.
He is ultra famous. That's true. But I think for these things to work, I think Diplo would have had to have been in the news for something else, which he wasn't either. Like, Diplo was just floating. So yeah, it did not work. It was not a good story.
Officially clickbait, and lesson learned that the algorithm only picks it up if he's in other news stories as well. So apply that this week. Maybe use kicking instead of punching too. Or choking is always good.
I'm gonna kicking in the teeth is a good one. Punching in the mouth, that's a great idea. Someone's gonna kick someone in the teeth, metaphorically, this week.
Arm bars.
Yeah.
Start incorporating MMA terminology if there's a big MMA fight coming up.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna do it.
Okay, cool. One other clickbait, True Grit or clickbait crap. Top Gold Coast Ironman sues Surf Life Saving Australia others after tumble from dangerous piece of playground equipment while swinging between monkey bars all day, lost grip and fell 2 meters, then immediately felt wrist pain.
Yeah, this story really should have done better than it did, but it really made me laugh. Like, the story popped up in my newsfeed and I was reading it about this multiple time winning Australian Ironman. It's funny, just a quick segue. I always thought the Ironman was just the monster one, right? Like the race from, or not, like, the Hawaiian one, like where you ride 100 miles, swim whatever, however many miles, and then run a marathon. But no, Ironman is just they've done a good job marketing, I guess. So now you can be an Australian Ironman, but I have no idea what the distances are, right? Like, I don't know how like for the average triathlon, Ironman triathlon, does it have to be the 100-mile biking, marathon, and however long they swim? Or do they have like mini ones?
Well, you're the biathlete, so you should know.
I'll get to the bottom of this. But in the meantime, this guy's won a bunch of them. And it just made me chuckle that what brought him low was monkey bars. Like, and it said it was for monkey bars. It wasn't like he was swinging on, it was like some American Ninja thing. But the fact that they were called monkey bars in the story, it was so funny that I had to write a whole article about it.
How long until the term monkey bars gets canceled?
Oh man, it's gotta be. I saw a big billboard, was just up in LA, saw a big billboard coming back. It was like a cow and a mouse and a something. It was a whole side of a building. It was like real professionally done, cow, mouse, and some other chicken maybe. And it said, "We feel, we love, we have fear, and something else, and stop speciesism." Like legit, it was not a joke. So to that, if those giant billboards are getting put up, monkey bars is pretty much out.
Yeah, it's monkey advocates are going to feel
this is an unfair representation of what our monkeys do. They don't swing around from thing to thing. They sometimes do that, but that's not all they do. So let's change these to swing bars.
Exactly. Well, the funny part about that story to me, or not funny, maybe offensive, is that he's suing over it.
Yeah, suing over the monkey bar thing. A lot of things. I mean, talk about our litigious, times that we live in. Australia, obviously, but like this happened in 2019, I believe it was. So 3 years ago. He's suing because it's shortening his career. He's won 6 Ironmans since the injury. So he got injured on monkey bars, or broke his wrist or whatever. Has gone on and won 6 more Ironman, but is suing because, his career is coming to it's going to shorten his career. Where, what in the world? You're winning 6. How is it more? How is it shortening your career?
He's suing for the additional 3 that he would have won. He would have made it to 9.
But he's also for past and for future, lost opportunity, because he's gonna have to hang up his Speedos early because his wrist is ouchy. But the other last thing that I really was thinking about, read the story, was all of the playgrounds now. There's a big one next to the house here that was built, I don't know, probably it was 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe. And it's really the ground is padded and it's all, it's fun. There's ropes and, obstacle coursey kind of stuff and whatever. But it's our childhood playgrounds on asphalt, all metal, all the dangerous things that we had to, play on. I mean, there's no merry-go-round at this playground, right? I don't know when the last time I saw a legit merry-go-round that you could get on and really whip it. And
remember how hot the metal used to be?
It just used to cook. I mean, I was thinking, I don't think we had these in the States much, but in my playground in Papua New Guinea when I was a kid, they had one of those maypoles, right? Where you hold on to the rings and everybody gets running. And you're literally flying out, you're just holding on for dear life, flying. And of course you got to let go at some point and you just shoot. I don't know how there wasn't massive death happening regularly on that thing.
I don't know either. I did see a kid break his wrist pretty bad at the playground. Hold on, I got a bird about to fly into my window.
Wait. Recently?
No, when I was a kid. When I was in elementary, it was on the playground at school. Elementary school, maybe 2nd or 3rd grade. There was this, I don't know if I can even describe it. It's like a teepee of bars that you kind of climb up. It's there's kind of a square structure to each of the bars and then a pole up the middle of the teepee. So you'd essentially climb this lattice of bars on the outside, get to the top, and then slide down the pole. and the kid slid down the pole, but had his arm out and somehow hit his arm on the lattice work of TP bars when he was coming down the center pole. So it must have been pretty tall to get enough momentum and speed to actually break your wrist on the way down. But it was literally like, like hanging like at a 90-degree angle where it shouldn't be, almost like he had a wrist where his forearm is. It was horrific.
Have you ever done one of those?
David's.
Have you ever done a break like that? Oh,
I've never broken a bone, period.
Oh, really? Wow. I got my arm like a good one like that.
On the monkey bars?
No, I was on a rope swing, happened to be in Papua New Guinea too, swinging out over a ditch. And I guess I slipped, and there was a big corrugated metal pipe at the bottom of the ditch, and I landed my arm on that thing. And I just, didn't feel any pain or anything, just remember that wasn't good. And so I hollered to my dad to come fetch me. I think I broke my arm. And he lifted me up, and I looked at it, and it was just like, just a full bend. Yep.
And then you felt the pain?
I think I was just in shock at that point. So, yeah.
Brutal.
Pretty fun.
All right. Well, we've got some barrel or Nas, but should we take a little commercial break before we get to them?
Let's do it.
All right, Chaz, we are back. And I've got a couple of barrel or Nas, but one listener line call in reference to last week's barrel or Nah. So I'm going to play that for you first.
Guys, barrel or Nah, curtains in a car. It's a total barrel. What about the classic Volkswagen Westfalia? Come on. I mean, I had a 66 Westfalia camper van, had curtains in it. Used to drive down to San Onofre, park right at the gate on a Friday night at 10 o'clock and sleep in the back of that sucker. Wake up at 6 a.m. It was open, charge in Dawn Patrol. Same thing at Trussell's. Used to park in the parking lot right there by Carl's Jr. on the street. Morning, charge down the trail, Dawn Patrol. Come on, guys. It's not just a child molester or a Rolls Royce.
What are your thoughts?
I have a rebuttal to the rebuttal. A Westfalia, I'm going to say, is a RV. We weren't taught, of course, your RV has curtains, right? I'm going to say Westfalia, because I've seen a bunch of those Westfalias, if I'm not mistaken, that have like kitchen sinks and stuff in them, right? Like, sure, it is van sized, but it is an RV. It is a recreational vehicle. So wrong, listener. If you have a van, I'm saying Westfalia is not a van. It is an RV.
I hate it when our listeners are wrong. I would prefer to be wrong just so that they can be right, but facts are facts.
I mean, you just cannot deny that the Westfalia is a RV.
And first of all, sleeping in the parking lot at Sano, sleeping in the parking lot to surf Trussell's, dude, what are you saving? 45 minutes? I don't know where this guy lives. He's saving 30 minutes, saving 45 minutes in the morning, but he's sleeping in a car. You're hearing the traffic from the 5 freeway go by. Here's what's happening for me. I'm sleeping in the comfort of my own home, in my own bed, nice linens. I get better sleep. I wake up 30 minutes earlier. Yeah, I'll give you that. But by the time I make it to the beach, I'm better rested. And by the time I paddle out, better rested.
He was, though, not sleeping in a car. He was sleeping in a recreational vehicle. So maybe he was getting a nice, comfortable sleep.
Good point. And
maybe he preferred.
And he's trying to play it cool. But just for the record, I'm not letting my kids around that guy either. If I see that Westfalia with curtains, hiding the kids, hiding the wife, walking the other way. He's self-identified.
Yeah, it really is true. Sorry.
Facts are facts. All right, barrel or nah for today's show. Keeping all of these Father's Day cards because they were lovingly written. And I mean, it's my first Father's Day, so there's that I got to factor in, but they've been sitting here for weeks. We're going on a month now. Do I throw them away? Do I get a box where I keep them as a keepsake?
This is a slippery slope, David Lee Scales. And thankfully, as a father who's been on the path slightly longer than you, here's what you do. you keep everything in a box early. Once that box gets to overflowing, then go in retroactively and start pitching stuff. Like, I remember, I think I kept every bit of Hemingway's art when, you know, from like age, I don't know, when she first started scribbling, 2 to 3, probably, like every piece of it. Went through not that long ago, was cleaning out my drawer and thought, crap, don't know what she's doing here, garbage. Like, kept one or two pieces as a memory of that time, but otherwise it's all garbage, man.
Do you select which pieces to, is the criteria for which pieces to keep based on the quality of her work?
It's quality of work. It's both quality and representational. Like, is it, does this represent a time in her development, right? Okay. So regarding your cards, you can do it now. It'll be harder to do it now, but with a little hindsight, you'll be able to pick one of those out that is meaningful and toss the rest. Because otherwise, I mean, it's a fine line with the kid stuff. I'm just becoming a crazy hoarder. Like, so you have to curate this collection of your child stuff. Like, where at the end, you know, there's a chest, but that chest, I would imagine, when you give that to the adult child, you know, when they have kids or whatever, you say, hey, here's all your stuff, that it's like, they look through and don't just be like, what is this trash, right? Every piece means something. Curate.
Okay. So I'm going to start the box. And like you said, you're going to purge eventually. I can't purge year one. I'm thinking the purge, I can purge the back catalog stuff.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
The back of the, the newer stuff.
You collect it all, and then you, with hindsight, you purge.
Okay. All right. Because
so
I mean, look, there's a lot of handwriting in here. You know, it's like lovingly thoughtful sentiments included in each of these cards. Photographs cut and pasted in. So I feel bad because of the amount of work, but I feel better now that I have a direction. Because
you know,
I knew I wasn't going to throw it away immediately, but I'm like, down the road, if I'm going to throw it away eventually, then I might as well just throw it away now.
But you need the hindsight, though. You need the hindsight of looking back, because again, you are building an art collection that, you know, each piece has to signify in that thing at the end. But you don't know that which one quite, you know, which one of those cards is the one. You don't know.
Got it.
Right?
Got it. Okay. All right. Will do. Barrel or nah? Talking to the person who is cutting your hair.
Oh man, so no barrel for me. I don't go, like, it's part of the reason that I don't go get my haircut as often as I should. I love, with my haircut person, she's great, right? Like, I don't have to worry about her. But if I'm gonna go, if I need a haircut and have to go to a strange salon, 9 times out of 10, I just won't do it, because I don't want to have small talk.
I got my haircut 2 days ago. The girl didn't say 2 words to me.
It's the best.
I was like, this is the greatest experience of my life. I'm going to come back to this girl every single time. I'm worried that if I do that, then she'll become familiar with me and start making small talk. I might have to find a new place. But gosh, it is the worst when you're getting your haircut and they're talkative and then they stop cutting while they're talking. You know, they're like, you see then get on a thought and they start lowering the scissors from your head. You're just like, are you, please go ahead, keep talking, but keep cutting at the same time.
I had one, which was even worse than that not too long ago, or I guess it was a while ago now. It was so traumatizing. I haven't had my haircut since. It was like that reimagining of a barbershop, right? Like the barbershop kind of thing. Right? Like men's hair cutting thing, but I think they did shaves, but it was like tattoo-y style, right? You know, like hipster, I guess. So they were all in there riffing with each other. I had 30 minutes and I thought, you know, I can get a haircut in 30 minutes, no problem. I think I even had 45 minutes and I thought that's plenty of time. It took like a stinking hour and a half, I think, because they were all just laughing and gabbing and being like barbershop-y, and I was sitting there and he took forever also. Like, he was crazy, fixated on getting it right. And I was like, oh, it was the worst decision of my entire life.
I'm still cringing about that. Like, I have had similar experiences. They don't realize they're cutting into their own profits. If you just turn people around, you'd be faster. They're focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on all the aesthetic and like the experience of it. We don't give a crap. Cut our hair quickly.
I suppose that he's hoping or thinking about a good tip. I tip the same regardless, right? Like,
Me too.
I mean, it just is what do you tip for a haircut?
Well, I try to go to just the most generic, cheap place possible. The haircut's $15 and I tip 10. I give them $25.
Great. Yeah. See, perfect. Like, I'll tip, my typical, I think, is 40, and I'll tip either 10 or 20, depending on what I have. Like, I hate asking for somebody to break a 20 for a tip. Always seems super late. But anyway, but I'm going to do that, like, whether you're talking or not. Like, I don't want you to talk. I prefer that you don't, but your talking is not going to raise the tip.
Silence is golden.
Yes. No barrel.
Haircutters are meant to be seen, not heard.
Exactly. Ooh, we should make two.
We really should. Okay, final barrel or not related kind of to the playground conversation. Letting your kids play outside without adults.
Barrel. Unless there's a Westphalia around. But this one is so I've let daughter walk to the park alone a few times, and with a friend is preferable, but like at some point you got to start building a little bit of, you have to be aware and look out for yourself. Like, and I don't know how you can do that if, sure, it's, uncomfortable as the parent. You can wonder, what might happen, but I hope and trust that kid is smart enough and fast enough and strong enough to not get into Westphalia with curtains, to, like, if she sees or senses trouble, to get out of there. Like, bad things always can happen, but you bubble wrapping your kid ain't the correct response.
I know it's a scary proposition. I'm considering what that age is where you start allowing the leash extension. I'm obviously way off of that moment, but I go to the park and I see other kids there at the park without their parents. And then I realize, well, we live in a good community where I'm watching out for those kids now, because I am a dad and that kid's dad isn't here, but now this is my responsibility. But I'm like, man, I have a hard time accepting that reality in the future. Or when he's even older, traveling the world, going places on his own, on an airplane, like all of that is frightening to me at this moment.
I mean, if young Austin came to you at 16 and said, I've saved up all my money and I want to go to, let's say, Europe by myself.
We'll see how he is as a 16-year-old, because I do recognize the value in that. And the fact that he has that ambition and that desire, I want to support that. But if he's a competent 16-year-old, then I'd consider it. If he seems, irresponsible or ill-equipped or unreasonable about what his ability levels are, then I'd have to reconsider that.
If you could give him an easy test at 16. Would you paddle out at Maalaea or would you not?
And if he says on a wave storm, he's not going. All right. Well, we'll revisit this discussion as he ages.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, sunbum.com. We didn't even talk about Athletic Greens, but they're always with us. athleticgreens.com/surf. Thank you to them as well. And thank you to our listeners who support our work for $5 a month. They're entered to win that Paizel Shadow from John.
A Paizel Shadow is if you won that Paizel Shadow, would you surf it or wall hang it?
I would absolutely surf it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like make it my regular board, but I would want to just feel how it goes.
What board would you get that you would wall hang? What's a board that you would get that you would not surf?
Maybe like one of those Jerry Lopez lightning bolt pipeliners, just because they're specifically for that style of wave. And it's like, I wouldn't surf that at Huntington or Newport or anything, so that would be a wall hanger.
on your lightning bolt and look all sick.
It would just be the wrong board for any conditions that I'd be paddling out in. So there'd be no reason to surf it, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's honestly, I can't think of a board that I would paddle out on one of Duke Hanamoku's planks.
It'd be interesting. Yeah, I would ride that just to feel what that was like, I guess.
Yeah. I can't think of a board that I would not paddle out, to be honest.
Wave Storm.
Except for that.
There you go. All right. Well, yeah, win that Paizo Shadow. If you get your support in, if you want to win it and you're not supporting currently, you can get your support in before the final minute of July on Pacific Standard Time, because we're going to pick the winner on August 1st.
Fantastic.
Awesome. All right, Chaz. Well, until next week, we'll have Hannah sign us off.
Bon voyage.
All right. Good show.
Yeah. Thank you.